This is the What's Neat This Week podcast show number 38. And tonight we're going to talk about DCC with a major DCC manufacturer. I've got Daniel Wright home on vacation, I know. We've got James Wright from out of town to be with us tonight, and of course Mike Budde. So we've got a great show with all the great stuff of all the new products and new news on show number 38. The What's Neat This Week video podcast is supported by enthusiastic model railroaders just like you. Additional support is provided by Athearn Trains. Check out all their new monthly announcements at athearn.com. And by Bachmann Trains. Now that's the way to run a railroad. Check out their website at bachmanntrains.com. And thank you very much for your support. This is the What's Neat This Week podcast, number 38 for June 9th, 2018. And tonight I've got with me Jim Scorse from NCE. Got Mike Budde sitting here right next to Jim. Thank you, Mike. I've got James Wright with us this evening. James.
In person.
Thank you very much. We've got Daniel Coombs, our favorite, sitting right here next to me. I've got Joshua Barton. I love your barbecue, man.
Thanks, guys.
Running camera number 1, and we've got Dirk Reynolds tonight on camera number 2. Thank you so much, Dirk, for coming after a long train show. Tonight, we've got some new news before we start out with our guests, and that is my friend Jimmy Simmons over at Monster Model Works has announced on his Facebook page that he is going to retire and or sell the business because there are better opportunities now with times being as good as they are in this country, and he's found something good that he'd like to do. So we all wish Jimmy Simmons the best, and thank you for making all the great models that you've made for Monster Model Works. I had the privilege to meet Jimmy at a Scotty Mason show way back when, and he's just a super enthusiastic, great guy, so I know you'll do well whatever you do. Also, James Wright had the ScaleTrains.com Tier 4 N-Scale locomotives on his show, and you know what, James, being as you're here, tell us about that model. That was pretty neat, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was an amazing model. In-scale detail has not been as great in the past as it is now with ScaleTrains Tier 4 Gevo. Just amazing work, amazing model. A lot of the close-up shots kind of look like an HO scale model. That's how much detail was packed into that. And the sound was good, too, with that ESU sound decoder.
You do a good job now. So, Jim Scorse, the company is called North Coast Engineering, and it's written on all of the throttles and all the panel mounts that we put up around on the layout tonight. Tell us about, I guess, your passion for trains, because you've certainly changed the lives of a lot of model railroaders.
Well, I've been a model railroader for, well, you don't count the train set at 2.5, probably since I was 12. And like most of us, I'm sure. Right now, I'm currently modeling in O scale up behind me here.
Nice.
That is nice.
Yeah, that's the building's not quite done yet, but it's waiting to be weathered and finish up some of the painting.
You've got great lighting in there, and you fixed that hot spot we had during our test shoot earlier. So it looks great. Those trees right behind your back, tell us about those trees.
These trees are made from just weeds found and basically dip them in good old green latex paint. I've got two kinds. I got birch trees over here.
Just paint the those have got to be tall because it's O scale, right? Are those pretty tall?
Right. They're about 9 inches tall.
Wow. That is tall.
Yes.
Wow.
That's a monster tree for us.
Yes.
Yeah, it's only 36 feet in O scale.
So this North Coast Engineering makes this most magnificent DCC system that we've been running here on the layout. We showed the Pro Power Cab system last week.
Oh, I'll get the other one.
And we've installed this larger PH Pro system on the layout down here recently. And they work so far bulletproof. Fantastic, going on 10 days of running trains 12 hours a day down here. Perfect. Everything works. So evidently, this is quite a great system you've developed. Tell us about you and the system and the whole bit.
Well, I started, getting back to the model railroading part, I started in O scale in 1989. We built a new house. finished off the basement, said I was going to go to O-scale from HO. And at the time, I was using the old Keller engineering or Keller onboard system, which worked moderately well, but it had a problem in O-scale, especially when you got to longer mainline runs. And there was a problem called intermodulation distortion, which, just a technical term. But what it did is you would lose control of your trains if you ran more than 3 or 4 trains at a time. The longer the layout, the more likely you were to lose control of your trains. So I worked on a scheme for repairing that, because I understood it. And I went out to San Mateo, California, talked to Bob Keller out there, and he liked my idea. I was going to make power units for his system. This was 1993. And we met. He liked the idea of having a second source for his product. Bob was getting up in years, and he was thinking of retiring somewhere down the road. And he thought it would be nice if his system could continue. We had made an agreement to meet at the 1993 Valley Forge NMRA convention.
That was a nice
which
show.
We did.
I was at that show. That was a very nice show.
It was a great convention.
Yes, it was.
And they had a clinic. The NMRA was asking for ideas for an NMRA official command control system so they can make it a standard. I went to one of the panel discussions. I got a handout, immediately made up my mind that I was going to drop the idea about the Keller thing and start working on one of the standardized systems. And that turned out to be DCC. Matter of fact, I even left the convention early and went home and started working on it that night.
Wow.
My God, now that's passion. That's passion.
It is.
I remember those ads for Keller Engineering back in the old RMCs and Model Railroader.
This is awesome. This sounds like one of those stories of be careful, you're going to get what you want.
Yeah.
Well,
So go on about, okay, so you're working on it that night now.
So I was working on it, and I was basically working on the idea for myself, for my own use. I wasn't going to commercialize it. About a year later, I was working for a large electronics company, and I had decided, I'd been there 23 years, and I decided that maybe it was time to move on. And I thought I would start my own contract design firm, Engineering Designs, which I did. We did a few jobs. I hired some engineers. And we did a few more jobs after I hired some engineers, and I got put in touch with Don Wangbro from System 1. You may remember that system. It was basically the NCE system. I did the design for Don. We had an agreement that I was always going to be able to produce it myself if I decided to commercialize it myself. Don and I had a fairly good business relationship for 2 or 3 years, but unfortunately Don got sick and died. Because I'd been supporting him at trade shows, a lot of his dealers knew me. And after he had died, they had asked me if they could get some more of the product. They wanted some more. So I decided to start producing it commercially. That was probably about late 1994, early 1995. And by 1998, we were in a new factory building. And the rest is history, as they say.
Now, this is no accident, but when I put batteries in this large throttle, which is the throttle that I've been learning how to use this week. Last week, I learned how to use the small throttle, the radio throttle,
Cab 06.
which I already preached, the horn on toot on how much I like that. But the fact is, I've been working with this larger one this week. I got the nerve up to start learning how to program it and this and that. And the one thing I noticed, which I know, how simple is this, right? But look, I'm blonde. You've balanced this puppy. When I put the batteries in it and I hold it in my hand, it ain't no accident that this is balanced. This is how your mind works. Because when I listened to you on Lionel Strang's interview, it was just absolutely amazing how you discussed how you came up with the design and this, how much thought you had put into this system, ergonomically, everything-wise. So.
Hey, Mike, it looks like you're getting interested in it.
Well, the interview was fantastic. I told you in Indianapolis I looked forward to meeting you, and we missed each other, and I met the gentleman in your booth, working the booth. His name is Ed. Was that Ed?
Ed Wilson.
Ed Wilson,
Sir.
what a super nice
Yes, sir.
guy. Well, I thought he was you, and I walked right up to him. And of course, after you listen to your interview on Lionel Strang, you get inside your head. You find out how deep you think to do things, how well your mind works, in other words. And so I walked up to Ed, and I'm like, Ed, I love your mind, man. But anyway, so I met you on Skype the other day. We did a test Skype, and I did tell you that story. But the fact is, I do respect how you think, because it's no accident that this system works as well as it does. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, a lot of thought into buttons and the location of the buttons, that sort of thing. There's actually, I can thank the U.S. Navy for this. In a previous life, when I worked for the large engineering company, we did a lot of military work. And the Navy published a book long ago called Human Factors Engineering. And they cover everything from, if you're working in a submarine, how far can you comfortably reach in front of you, down underneath a cabinet, above your head to flip switches. If you need to look at an important gauge, where does that need to be done? And that it also covers a lot of things about if you're using one-handed controls, like remote control that you're handing. You want everything to be operable by a thumb, and it needs to be ambidextrous.
That's amazing. And so that's part of your philosophy comes from that material.
It does, yes.
Dude, this is fantastic. Now, we want to thank very much Bachmann Trains in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for sponsoring the What's Neat show.
and I believe we got an engine from them right here in front of us.
Yes, we do. This looks to me to be like the
280.
consolidation that
Baldwin.
Bachmann is so famous for. This is a beautiful model right here they sent this week. I've got just a little bit of footage of it running here that I'm going to show you right now. It's got full sound in it, and I also shot a couple photographs of it outside. So it's just a really neat little piece. Now, the other models that we were going to show off on the show tonight haven't arrived UPS yet, so we'll have some really cool stuff next week, because we were talking about large scale last week, and I've still got those Trains USA auto racks here, which are over right on top of Jim's head over here to the left. Can you see that over there? These models are over about 3 feet long. We showed them last week on the show, and there's already been volunteers on the internet that have suggested, quite honestly, that these are canvases waiting to be painted. And we've seen some gorgeous models already, and the prototypes. We've got a lot of ideas on how to paint those beautiful models over there. But if you've never seen those, check those out. And they're not a sponsor, but Trains USA, I'll tell you what, USA Trains, they make some neat models.
They do.
And it's not all about the Garden Railroad. It's about a display, a beautiful 129 scale frickin' Autorite is just beautiful. So I mean, it's in your train room right now. I can see it. James Wright, you wanted to come here and talk about how wonderful your life is and that your website's doing well and da-da-da-da-da. Talk some a little bit, James.
Well, my real purpose to come here was spending time with you, Ken.
You and Daniel were over there earlier tonight filming one of your segments, shooting a diesel locomotive, and Daniel was your cameraman. I've got footage here of Daniel working with you side by side.
I'm just an amateur, okay?
Yeah.
Just
How did that work out for you, Jim?
Pretty good. I'm currently filming my first video vlog, basically, kind of showing a behind the scenes instead of just cranking out reviews and a few run-bys showing what goes into my daily life. So, for example, this weekend I went to a train show, actually snuck into a train show last night before it was open, visited with Spring Creek model trains, bought some items from a couple of vendors, then drove this morning to visit you for 7 hours thanks to Kansas City traffic.
No, that's nice. We're happy to have you here. I mean,
And
finally glad to meet you in person, too.
I love your smile, man. Just smile, and we've got good camera edits all day.
And also to bring a very rare model, something that's not been produced, obviously.
What'd you bring?
mass-produced.
What'd you bring, man?
So this is a UP 2066. It's basically a power car that Union Pacific uses on their excursion trains, and they have a very unique situation in this model. And on the real thing, obviously, they had to pack in a bunch of generators into that hump. And a guy by the name of Harry Athearn, which if anybody wants his information, I'll put it below, has kit bashed this for me using a 3D printed dome along with a Walthers passenger car, and really done a lot of work, over 150 hours, I believe, of work into that model. And he's actually making those available for purchase. So I purchased serial number 1 here.
It's gorgeous,
because I'm
man.
a big UP Excursion fan, and
I can't wait until those are mass produced, like where we can all just immediately, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, yeah,
And
just
they're-
like that. Because it would be so cool to have an entire excursion train. I mean, the
Right.
engines are available on the market, and there are some cars from Authors, a lot of cars from Authors.
Right.
But
There
to do
is.
the entire train, you need the generator car and the power car, and those cars that Dirk showed us when he was here that one day.
December 2014.
I know, I'm showing you video footage of it right now. Look at Dirk in the sunshine, and that's just what it was like out there today when we were shooting some stuff earlier.
What's unique, or what's really needed in the UP excursion and other excursions is observation cars, and I think that manufacturers could, if they find a way
The
to
end car, right?
Yeah, the end
Observation.
car with the
Listen to
jack.
me, I'm blonde again. I'm sorry,
Yep.
but yeah,
Oh,
the
no.
end car.
But yeah, if they found a way to either create one accurate one and the other ones would be Fubies, or swap out the sides so that the window configurations would match, I think they would have a big hit on their hands.
There
This
you go.
power car may not ever be massively produced because UP is the only one that does it. And I know manufacturers like to do more than one road because the investment's expensive. So,
Right.
but yeah, it's pretty cool, and I'm glad I was able to get it. The guy's real talented, and it's a great car.
You're awesome, man. I'm so glad you came tonight. This is great.
Great being here.
Now, when you walked in the door tonight, and I know Jim Scorse can relate to this, I just hit your microphone, trade show displays. I was working on some Athearn trade show displays tonight. We were rebuilding some older displays and forming them up with nothing better than the great foam pro stuff that we build with our layouts all the time. And this stuff is going to make those things solid as a rock. I filled them up solid, dropped in some 1-inch foam, and it expanded perfectly. So I'm really happy about these things the way they turned out, and that's what the chaos that you walked into today. Now, Josh Barton, you brought a Broadway Limited locomotive here, didn't you?
I sure did.
Tell us about that. What was that called?
I'm not sure. That's
I think that was the
department.
ES44AC.
Yep.
ES44AC. I've got some video
So it's
footage of
basically
it
a tier
running.
three,
Tier 3.
evolution look.
That's what
Check out that
locomotive.
smoke. Isn't that cool? This diesel is smoking. You can see the smoke hitting the top of the cabinet as it was running on the back of the main line back there. And it was really neat to see that, Josh. I love it when you guys bring different models because, you know, we can't afford all of them, but among all of us, we can pretty much show what's out there.
That's right.
And that's really part of the neat thing about the show is it's all put on. I know it sounds so corny, I say it over and over. This is a show put on for us, by us, guys.
Right.
When we come by here and do it. Daniel, what have you been working on?
Okay, a lot of stuff. Okay. Well, let's just say May 22nd, I had the opportunity to visit a layout here in St. Louis, Missouri. Gary Gross in his Franklin Pacific layout. It's basically a railroad that runs from St. Louis to Springfield, Missouri. This is 1950s, so Mike might find a niche in this
Maybe.
route. And it's basically prototype operations. We got to operate it, 8 guys, and we started at, the mimic date was July 2nd, 1956, I believe. So this is post steam era with the diesels, but it was cool. I got to run a few trains, hiccups in the session, but we got through them, and it was a very fun night too. And this is a 3-level layout. You got staging, middle level, and then the top level, and then you got 2 helixes. I know that word helix can.
I love it when you get around to
Grinds
see
your
these
gears.
layouts, because when you get to see these layouts, you know, it's really inspiring for us to see this stuff. And there's a lot of layouts out there that have never been in the magazines before, you know?
So do you want me to do other stuff here?
Shout out to your friend
All right,
Carlson.
so, okay, I got a gentleman who I believe is another my age modeler out in Pennsylvania, Carson Stoffer. Let me just pull up my notes real quick. All right, so he lives in Lititz, Pennsylvania. He started at the age of 3, and his dad and his 2 older brothers were already into it. He told me he also had a Tyco train set, so that's how he got started. I believe that's how you got
yeah, that's
your
cool, man.
start.
Everybody starts
years.
out that way.
He stuck with it and is a huge fan of steam locomotives, especially the Pennsylvania. He sent me a TCS Wow Sound decoder install that he did all by himself, which
Cool.
I tell you what, came out very good. I think he used a Bachmann Spectrum K4.
Bachmann, okay.
So shout out to Carson. So I'm sure you're watching. How you doing? All from What's Neat.
The youth come out of the woodwork and they contact you, Daniel, and I think that's absolutely fantastic that we have discovered so many young people through the internet and especially through YouTube. I also would like to thank Athearn Trains for sponsoring the What's Neat This Week podcast. Thank you so much. I can't say enough about how cool their models are. And Daniel, there's something new that they've come out with that you have studied.
Yes. So they have recently announced in the Genesis line NACC 13,600 gallon Athearn tank cars. These are acid tank cars. So acid, I'll summarize it here. Acid tank cars are used for smeltering of the steel mills and the copper plants. So they bring the cars in. It's basically like a corrosive acid that helps break down the steel that comes in from recycled scrap piles, and then they can remelt it and then produce it into whatever else they need to produce it as. They are selling it in 6 different road numbers. Road names are the same, but don't worry. I'm sure they'll have different road names in the future. They offer them in single and 3-packs. Are both available? Well, they will now that they just got released. So
that is very cool.
That's that.
Did I mention that Joshua bought barbecue for us tonight? Did I even say that yet?
My
No,
hero.
kid.
Not yet.
I got some video footage of you guys over there enjoying that sugar fire barbecue. I got myself a piece of that turkey again tonight. Rock and roll. It was delicious. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Jim, you missed out on that part of the show.
The brisket's in the
Look
mail,
at that
Jim.
smile. That's priceless. I love it. I love it that you're here. I'm going to let you talk in just 1 second after I mentioned that Brad Sloan did come by this week, and he showed off another beautiful brass locomotive in HO scale. I don't remember what manufacturer this Frisco model was, Mike. It was 4524. It was a Northern 484 locomotive. And all of the freight cars that Brad had brought this time around all were custom, like, models, those resin kits. I think they were sunshine kits. There had to be 12 or 14 sunshine kits in this train. You know how long it takes to build something like that, and he had these things weathered and built absolutely beautiful. He also brought over a Frisco bunk car that is absolutely scratch built out of styrene piece by piece. This is not a kit, and it had its full interior in it, down to the calendar and the stove and the bunks and the beds, and it was absolutely amazing.
So super detailed.
In HO scale, Brad must have fantastic eyesight. I know, that was corny. Mike, tell me about the models you brought tonight. We all love it when you show off some cool models.
Well, thanks. First, I wanted to mention last week I talked about Greg Javanillo, who recognized me in the hobby shop up in St. Charles. Well, after his Uber driver picked him up, drove him back downtown to his hotel, he asked the Uber driver where to get some barbecue. Guess where he dropped him off? Right there where Ken filmed the smoker in the street. So then he goes up to the airport to catch his flight back to New Orleans, and he sees Daniel in the airport.
What are
Yeah.
the odds of that?
Yes.
A guy,
So,
what's if you're out of town? He goes to a hobby shop. He goes to a restaurant mentioned by
Right.
the way the owner is a big train nut, and then he sees another guy from the cast.
yeah.
A shame I didn't meet him though, because he said he was in a hurry. But all right, is his name Greg?
Greg
if you're watching,
Javanillo.
sorry that we didn't meet up. It would have been all right if you'd come up to me and say, "Hey, I see you guys on What's Neat." I would have been fine with that. But hopefully, I'll meet you again soon, sir. So.
Now, Joshua, you said you had a couple customers come in the store eating barbecue and telling you that they knew about what now, the show?
Yeah, they saw it on the show. I had one gentleman. His name is Edward McLarty. He came into our Indianapolis store from seeing the show and had some delicious, tasty barbecue. And then another gentleman, which I did not catch his name, but he came into my store here in St. Louis and had some delicious barbecue and watches the show as well.
That's fantastic. Now I'm going to go back to Jim Scorse out there in YouTube land with us on the TV. Jim, I've got both of the reference books here, the Power Pro System manual, which is the main system that we've got on the big layout,
and then
and
power
the
cab,
Power
which is the
Cab
basic
system
DCC
manual,
system.
which is the self-contained unit for $199 where you're ready to go to run your train. Now, one thing I will say about these books, I've been reading them. I read them for almost 5 days last week, for an hour each day.
Wow.
Just to comprehend it, think about it, you know what I mean? I just need to do that. These are very well written. They're super easy to understand. They're not written in computer jibber-jabber language that I got to learn about. It's like, sometimes when you read instruction manuals, it's like you have to learn the language before you can understand what you're reading in the manual. And yours just explain it. How did you do that?
He just did it.
I
He just did it.
I just wrote it. Part of
But you are an engineer, right?
Right, I am an engineer.
See,
but
for most
you have
engineers,
to think,
it's
you can't
difficult to
think like an engineer.
Right.
to make
Right, you
product.
have that
You to-
ability. Yes, I'm sorry. You have that ability where you can actually relate to the normal guy. I know a lot of engineers. You trip them up when you ask them what's the weather like, and that's not an insult, but that is that they're so absorbed in what they're doing all the time. You know, they don't quit thinking about it. But you have this ability of like talking to us. Is that what I'm trying to explain?
On our own level, maybe.
Yeah, like Mike, if you
Right.
read that. I mean, look how fast Mike picked it up on the last show. You
Yeah.
watched it happen.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know how to use that. And a few minutes later, you wouldn't
Right.
stop honking the horn while I'm talking.
Right. And
With
I
the
agree
big-
with Ken about
big
the
grin on his face.
ergonomic design of the throttle. I mean, it flares out just the right point to hold it comfortably between your index finger and your thumb. You can still reach the throttle and whatever these other buttons are for. I mean, I guess I would learn them eventually, but the train control is really easy to work with your thumb and everything. So
So, Mike, what's your first impression on the system when you first held it
Sounds
last
like
podcast?
Well,
it was easy to learn. I would have more problem learning the programming, you know, and all the technical stuff. But
Right.
most of that stuff I wouldn't use anyway. But as far as just running the train and honking the horn and ringing the bells, you know, that's probably all I would do. Working the lights, it seemed very easy to use.
Did you ever think 35 shows ago you would actually be effectively talking about this?
No. Well, we haven't
You've
come
come
very
a-
far yet.
You've come a long way, baby. You've come a long way, Mike.
Yeah.
And
well,
and this just is more of
baby
a
steps.
this is more of a proof that it is simple to use. 'Cause-
Mhm.
It is.
even for somebody with my
and you've
attitude.
sold hundreds of thousands of these, Jim. You've been very have I noticed it's more demographics though? Sometimes it's broken up geography wise on where systems are used in the country.
Well, I was in the office today, and I actually took a look at the sales numbers, and it's 110,780 that have actually shipped at this point.
That's a lot of happy users.
Yeah.
And that's power cabs.
Power cabs.
Which is
Yeah,
the
I
basics.
didn't look at the sales of the other systems. It's probably in the 40,000 range.
Okay, but you can run. And now I said last week on the show you could run a half-size basement size layout with that. Is there a limit to the size of the layout you could run with the power cab?
No, there's no limit with DCC with any system. There's no limit to the size of the layout.
Okay,
It's how many trains you want to run at one time, how much power you need
right.
to run the trains.
And this power cab will run how many trains at one time?
Well, technically, there's a limit of 18 trains.
See,
It's limited by the amount of memory in the.
Right. So this system would
Power
actually. This is it. $199. You're into a DCC system, foolproof, easy. I mean, show me the way. That's the golden road right there. I mean, it's unarguably simple. This is why you've done so well. So if you go public with stock, man, give me a shout.
Ooh, sure.
Yes.
You sure as you want.
Now, we've been working really hard around here. I told you we built those trade show displays earlier today. July's What's Neat video, thank you very much, is done. Got it done just this morning. Thank you very much. My lovely wife, the girl of my dreams, Michelle Patterson, opens up the July video for us. And then Stephen Mann shares with us his beautiful Chicago Northwestern HO scale layout that is so large it's got open strip mines on it.
Wow.
It's like really cool. Bill White shows us his G-scale layout, which is a work of art. This is the G-scale crowd where they just super detail stuff out. It's just beautiful. This layout, for layout construction, I build a brand new lift out section on my layout, which you guys have already used, and I think you guys all like it. And I show you how that gets built. Ron Pear does a segment on that Chinese building that he showed us on last week's podcast, only he tells us actually how he built it, how he made the tile grout, and he's got some tricks. He pulls some dirt out of a hat.
Square is relative.
Square is relative, Ron Pear. We love you, brother. The auto racks that I already talked about, those are also in the video. I did an expose on them. Drone footage, we've got some tank train drone footage that is just absolutely magnificent from Stephen M. Conroy, and I also shot some model footage to correlate with that. We also had a new person send us some drone footage. Arden Niles, is that right?
Nice.
Nice. Arden
Aiden.
Nice
Aiden.
sent us drone footage that I used for the opening
Hold on,
of
James
the
is
video.
trying to talk to you.
Eden.
Aiden, oh, you know him. Cool. Okay, Aiden, nice. Thank you for the drone footage. We ran it at the beginning of the What's Neat. And also, the last thing on my list is somewhere in that video, the Korea Brass track cleaner, all repainted, makes a debut. Again, only Thomas is somewhere in the wins on this. So July is a good home run. It's a good video. And I'm starting on August. And
Van
I
Wyck
just
style.
pretty much ran out of all the stuff on my list. So somebody save me, 'cause I don't know where to go
I
next.
never talked about my vehicles.
No.
You didn't talk about him yet?
Yo, you cut him off.
Started to, yeah.
Mike,
But-
for goodness gracious, Mike.
Uh,
Close out the show and talk about your cars.
Well, the street cleaner is a JL Innovations white metal kit, and I just added a little bit of detail. But there's a lot of room for more detail on both of these models. The other is a Walters trash truck with a CNC metal cab of a 74 Chevy C-Series, 60 Series cab. But both of these models are ones that I worked on a long time ago, and there's still a lot of room for detail on the backs of them and stuff. And as a disclaimer, I don't finish these things once a week. Like, I'm not cranking them out like this. I always have at least a dozen projects going, and revolve things to keep things fresh. And these are just projects that I get done,
Mike, every one of your vehicles could be a 15-minute how-to video on themselves. We love it just that you show us. I mean, how many car guys are inspired? There's so many train guys out there that correlate cars with trains, and it's a great hobby because of that.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming up to the end. Jim, I want to thank you, Jim Scorse, for being here. You're an absolutely awesome guest. And is there anything else you want to throw out there? Tell us your website to buy your great product.
The website, ncedcc.com. We're open 24 hours.
That's
Okay.
rock and roll great. Daniel, anything else tonight?
All right, real quick, I forgot to say something when you asked me what I've been working on. I have been working on an undecorated Athearn Genesis model, my first ever painting from the ground up.
Oh, I got video footage of you airbrushing that.
Primer
that
coat.
thing's coming along, man. How far did you get on that?
Just with the primer coat the last time, and I've been doing all the.
So
of
you're
course,
learning how to paint, and that was literally the first time you used an airbrush,
It was.
wasn't it? And that worked out really
It,
well.
it did. You showed me.
That's
but
awesome.
Then you said the lacquer thinner. That's gonna kill you because it's like I got paint all over my hands.
You got to wear gloves and wear a mask, and
Yeah.
we all
Yeah,
took care of that.
Safety protection.
James, you're going to have a safe ride home. Tell us about your YouTube website. How do we get to that?
Just youtube.com/JLWII2000.
That's right, and that's where you can watch all the really cool videos on all the new products that are coming out in the industry. I know the folks at Bachmann absolutely like you. When they talk to me on the phone, Deborah, she loves you, man. She loves how you do their stuff. Joshua, thank you so much for the barbecue tonight. Thank you for running camera number 1 tonight. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think we're good. Let's go.
Run
go
some
We're gonna
trains.
go
Yeah,
run
let's go
some
run some
trains.
trains.
Dirk, thank you very much for also running camera. So, guys, Jim, we're going to close it out here. Mike, this is show number 38, June 9th, 2018. This is when I like it because I know it's already in the can. So, guys, thank you very much for being here tonight, and let's go run some trains.
How about it?
All right.
Let's go do it.
Thank you.